This is the XDJ-AZ, the replacement for the XDJ-XZ from AlphaTheta stroke Pioneer DJ. This is the most exciting new DJ unit to be launched for a very long time. It's got a fantastic 10-inch screen with 4 full decks of control for the first time on this style of unit from this company. It was the unit that everyone was hoping they would launch when they launched the Opus Quad, because its predecessor, the XDJ-XZ, was flawed at birth because it only supported 2 channels of standalone audio. It supported 4 channels of software audio, but only 2 channels from your USB drive, which meant that it was already behind the best of the competition even when it was launched. Well, finally, many years on, this is the replacement for it. It's the direct replacement for the XDJ-XZ. It corrects everything about that unit that people didn't like without breaking anything. It really is fantastic, and that's the first thing I can tell you. I've been playing with this for a few days now. This is the ultimate DJ unit for most people because it's got everything in it that the best of the competition have got, and the stuff it hasn't got is coming, and it's just the most complete all-in-one DJ unit on the market, taking the best bits of pro DJ gear, the best bits of the XDJ-RX3, which came before it, namely the wonderful screen, and the best bits of the Opus Quad, with a few new things as well. Notwithstanding, it's got SonicLink. These are the SonicLink headphones, which have got ultra low latency for DJing, and this unit has got a button around the front. You just tap the button, you switch the headphones on, and you have wireless connection for DJing in a way that hasn't been done before on any DJ controller. It's got a huge range of inputs, not only analog for connecting turntables and so on, but DVS for connecting software, Pro DJ Link, so you can use your CDJs to control decks 3 and 4 if you want. It's got Cloud Direct Play, it's got Beatport Play from your library as well. Just log in and they're all there. Of course, it lets you connect directly to a library on a laptop, but this laptop can be on Wi-Fi, Ethernet or USB. It has 2 channels of Bluetooth input. You can connect to Rekordbox on your phone. And yes, you can, of course, plug a USB drive into it and just play your tunes. And it's got onboard analysis for those tunes as well for the first time on a unit like this. And quite apart from all that, if you just want to use it as a software controller, it works with Rekordbox and coming very soon with Serato. And AlphaTheta have bumped the audio quality with a 32-bit converter inside, plus my favorite new function, because I really wondered why this was missing on their previous units. You've got key sync and key shift on all tracks, so you can DJ in a modern style without worrying about key clashes. 4 waveforms in order to see the 4 decks that it controls. A huge array of options to configure it exactly how you want, and a new mixer settings panel so you can again get everything exactly how you want to use it. And this has taken a lot of the knobs and buttons away from the unit itself, which means that overall, despite being a very capable unit, there is a little bit more space around stuff. I can get my finger through the gaps between the EQs, which I couldn't on the old one because they've expanded it a bit. A lot of the little buttons and knobs have gone from around here because the selectors for which side of the crossfader your up channels are on are now in this screen here, and so on. It's as if they've just looked at everything, every small and big part on the XDJ-XZ or XZ, and improved it. I mean, it really is. I can see very little about this that isn't to my taste. So if you've been looking for the ultimate Pioneer DJ stroke AlphaTheta ecosystem DJ unit, you found it. Go get your $3 and drop it on it. But if you want to watch on now, I'll talk you in a little bit more detail about some of the things on here and how they work. Remember, as always, we have a full, comprehensive, like 2-hour-long training tutorial and video manual coming for this. The one we did for the previous unit has had many hundreds of thousands of people follow it. And whether you're ordering one and you want to get up to speed with it before it arrives, or you've got one and you're scratching your head a bit, do watch out for that, because it will get you going a lot faster than the 146-page manual that comes with it. Trust me, we've done the head scratching for you. Anyway, for now, let's get stuck into looking at some of the more interesting features of this unit in a bit more detail. Let's start down here with the pad mode section. So there's a few new pad modes. There's a gate cue alongside the hot cue. So on this kind of gear, normally the cues are like this. In other words, they play when you touch them. Even if the thing is paused, they will play. Some people prefer gate cue, which means that when the track isn't playing, the cue won't play. It'll just be momentary. Well, you can tap this now and have exactly the same cues that you've got set, but now they are gate cues. Now beat loop now gets a second beat loop underneath it. If I double tap the pad info, you can see on the screen here, we can actually see what's going on. See on the cues, you can see that I've got A set to a normal cue, B set to a loop, and so on. Beat loop, it's telling me the values I'm going to get. So I know this is going to be a half beat loop because it's that one there. I know that's going to be a 1 beat loop, and so on. Beat loop 2 gives me some more esoteric values, some of the odd numbers and triplets and so on. Now we've got a slip loop as well. Again, it's telling us up here what we're going to get. And we've got beat jump, and beat jump's got the low values on the first one. On the second one, it's got the high values all the way up to 16 bars, which is quite cool. On this one here, we also now get a key shift. You can see on the screen, we've got semitone up, semitone down, reset, sync, and some various other values there as well. This can be quite cool if you want to do a routine where you're quickly changing key, like our very own DJ Angelo does. Also worth pointing out that everything I'm showing you on here is also on the screen as well. It's one of the benefits of having this huge screen. There's a new key sync button now because we've got key on here as well. Up here, we've got beat loop and 4 and 8 beat variants for the first time. Up here, there's a nice push to talk. You hold your hand down on either of the microphone channels and then you take your hand off and it'll go back to where you were before. Quick way of getting the microphone kicked into the mix. New button for quantize here as well. The slip controls are a bit better. You've got a normal slip mode, but you've also got a slip reverse, so you don't have to remember to use both buttons if you want to use it as a sensor. And by holding shift and pressing this, it'll just reverse the currently playing track as well. Over to the mixer, the new nicely spread out mixer. Look at all the space we've got around the effects here. Very little change down here, very little change here for the sound color and beat effects. We've got a new link cue here. Link cue lets you hear in your headphones what's going on either in preview against the tracks that you've got here. So I can press down preview here and listen to this track on the place I touch in my headphones while everything else is going on. It'll automatically switch to it and then switch back. Or if I'm playing a track and I tap the waveform, again in my headphones I can hear from the place I've tapped. So I can check what's coming up and find a good mix out point. This is awesome. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of the space that's been created here is because a lot of the settings have been pushed onto the screen, which isn't a bad thing because they're the settings that you won't need a hardware control for. So it's things like the feedback reducer on the microphones, whether the microphone is routed through the beat effects, first mic, second mic, or both of them. Some recording settings there. The deck inputs are now up here, so you can choose whether it's going to be a standalone or software deck, or line or phono or Bluetooth, because decks 3 and 4 have both got Bluetooth now. Decks 3 and 4 are the external decks that you can do clever stuff with. Decks 1 and 2 are always the decks that work with the internal sources. So EQ can be selected between cut EQ and full and standard EQ there. So if you prefer the kind of like more electronic version of all the EQs utterly cutting the frequencies, or you want something a little bit more subtle, that's there now. You've got the headphones mono split up here, the volume of the headphones preview that I was just showing you, and here the deck buttons for assigning to the crossfader left or right have all been pushed here as well, along with the channel fader curve and cross fader curve. Now there's actually another panel for settings that you can get to by pressing the shortcut menu here, and this has got things like the quantize value for beat mixing, whether the vinyl speed is on touch, release, or both. So basically this is when you have got this vinyl button pressed here, whether it's gonna give that vinyl effect when you start, stop, or just both the tracks. So that's currently set to touch, which means only stop. If I set it to touch and release, maybe put it on a lower value, let's put it on 3. You can hear that it's slightly different, and this little software knob here is showing you where you've got it set. Most people will leave that on touch. There's a few other options here for whether you want the center of the waveform to be to the left or a little bit further this way, just to help you see what's coming a little bit more, and whether the time scale on the waveform is bars and beats or is actually set in minutes and seconds, and a couple of jog wheel displays there as well. You can also alter the brightness of the jog display and the main display, which is really useful if you are DJing outdoors in the sunshine, for instance. Now, I'm not going to go into exhaustive detail about everything on the screen, because if you know the CDJ-3000s or the Opus Quad or even the RX3, you'll know the size of the screen, you'll know the way it feels, and most of these features have existed on previous units, but they're now all in here, and this is currently therefore state of the art, and it's worth having a look at it just because it's so nice. So look, this is the selector screen, this is the source screen. So I've currently got a USB drive in here and I'm set to local library, but equally I can go onto my cloud drive. So now it's right inside my cloud tracks. This is now getting them straight from my Rekordbox cloud, and you can see it's getting all the waveforms in for me and so on as well in the background. This is awesome to have on here, but you might have also noticed in there I can log into Beatport. One thing I would like to see is not having to do this every time. So on you need to have a USB key plugged in to use Rekordbox Cloud, and the reason for that is it takes your username and password directly from Rekordbox software and unlocks, if you like, your cloud so that only you with that key can DJ with your music. There's no reason I can't see why they can't put your username and password for Beatport on there as well, so that this automatically gets logged in for you. It's something, for instance, that Denon DJ, or rather Engine DJ, has managed on its equipment. So come on, let's get that one sorted, please, AlphaTheta. So there's just some of the sources that you can have. There's plenty of others as well, which we can take a look at. So look, this is the actual music library. You can see we've now got 13 rather than 8 tracks showing, which makes an absolute world of difference. I mean, this is again all down to the 10-inch screen. So much information on here that you didn't get before. When you're away from there and you're on the waveform view, again, we've got 4 waveforms. I showed you those earlier. Got all this stuff in the middle that's related to the pads. But up here, again, we've got so much information. We've got the beat effects information showing here. This is another way of getting to the key, and you'll have seen this before on the CDJ-3000s. So just really nice screens. Now, there's ways of switching this to just 2 decks if you're only ever going to use 2. I'll show you that in a minute. So then moving on, this is all the same as the CDJ-3000. Tag list, playlist, search and menu. You've got your track filter. In fact, this is again all exactly the same. So track filter, easy way of finding tracks. Holding down on there gets you into this where you can decide what criteria it uses to filter your collection to suggest tracks to play next. And if you hold down on this menu button, it'll take you to the utility here. Let's take a quick look at some of these things, because there's an awful lot that you can set in here. You can protect the deck so you don't accidentally unload the currently playing deck. Lots of color stuff going on here. The vinyl speed, again, there's another place of getting to that there as well. You can set a continuous play mode if you want, so you can just have it playing through a playlist. You can set Pro DJ Link mode here, and this is when you want to plug CDJs in and then use those to physically control decks 3 and 4 of the unit, rather than using the layer buttons to do that. I'll talk to you a bit more about that in a minute, because they have changed something for the worse actually with that, but we'll come on to that. So mixer, a lot of this stuff is the stuff that we've seen in the really much nicer new mixer settings here, but you've got the old school mixer settings as well there, if you want to access it in the way that you've done before. Audio output, again, this is all standard stuff, but attenuator, mono stereo, booth monitor stuff as well there. There's another way of getting to some of those display things that we looked at. This is where you put in your Wi-Fi stuff and where you can check the Ethernet info if you're on an Ethernet network. And there's also a Bluetooth setting here and the language stuff and so on. Let's look at the back. We've got 2 microphone inputs. We've only got 2 inputs for externals now, so you can't plug in 4 channels of external stuff like you could on the old one. They've obviously thought that people don't do that. They don't use all 4 mixer channels, so they simplified that. Ground terminal there if you're using turntables up here. We've now got our TRS outputs for balanced output there. We've also got the unbalanced that I'm using there, and then we've got the XLR balance, so that covers your booth and your master there. Moving on then, we've only got 1 Ethernet or Pro DJ Link socket. This might upset people because the old unit had a hub built in. So if you do want to use it with CDJs, you're going to need to use an external hub. Frankly, it's exactly the same way that you have to do it when you're using, you know, the Pro gear. They don't have a hub built into the mixer either. So this was the only unit that did have that. Well, I say did have because it doesn't have it anymore. That's gone. And they've gone for a USB-C for plugging in your computer. So if you want to plug in your laptop and use software control with Rekordbox and Serato, you're going to be using a USB-C. Again, a lot of people don't like those. Too wobbly, too easy to pull out. They much prefer the old kind of USB-B, the kind of printer cable one that goes in and you need to yank it hard to get it out. It's not the case on this unit. It's now a USB-C, as with other recent gear from AlphaTheta. I've been playing with this for a while now, and I've got three big observations. The first one is that it's moving from hardware to software. The whole world is moving from hardware to software. DJing is no different. What do I mean? Well, look, this is at the heart, and one of its strengths is that it's at the heart of the Pioneer DJ stroke AlphaTheta ecosystem of software. We talked about all the different ways you can get music into this unit, and I only looked at a few here, but already we've got the cloud here, and this means that I can be correcting the cue points on my phone. I can be using a laptop to buy music and add it to my collection. I can use my phone to add it to the collection. Log in here and it's all there. If you forget a track, if you haven't exported a track to your USB, then it's easy to put it on here. But this unit here will let you switch really simply between all the different ways you can play, and I counted 10. Let's try and remember them. You can play with the onboard USB, you can play with cloud, you can play with Bluetooth, you can play with Beatport now, and they say they're going to be adding more streaming services as well. You can play using your Pro DJ link to export mode on your DJ gear, but you can also use the USB connection, or you can also use Wi-Fi connection to use the export mode on your DJ gear. It basically turns your laptop into a massive hard drive, and so you can have that as a better screen than this one even, but essentially the unit works in exactly the same way. Or you can connect with software to both Serato and Rekordbox to your DJ gear. You've got a standard, did I mention Bluetooth? Standard Bluetooth link on 3 and 4 into here. And of course you can plug your analog decks and so on in around the back. What we're hearing a lot nowadays is people buy DJ gear, maybe spend a lot of money on it, and then they're a little bit disappointed that they can't do the thing they wanted to do. They can't plug the USB in, or it doesn't work with any kind of software, or they can't use it over the air to use streaming services and so on. This is the most complete AlphaTheta unit so far for that. And the Rekordbox system, full of flaws though it is, Rekordbox is very, very far from perfect software. Their communication is frankly terrible. Some of their practices with the customers, as far as subscription goes and as far as changing the rules go, I don't agree with at all. But at the end of the day, they've built the most complete ecosystem for DJs that works across the widest range of gear and with the widest range of software at a price. It costs money, it's subscription. And if that appeals to you, you're not going to get better than this. So that's point number one. So point number two is, I've already made it, but let's just make it again. This unit, complicated looking though it is, has got so much stuff that's been stripped away from it to keep it manageable. So if you compare it to this setup here, which might again be complicated, but at the end of the day, DJs in the Pro DJ booth know where to find everything on this gear, and it doesn't feel fiddly to them because everything's where it's always been, right? They've managed to do that on here while still squeezing in so much extra functionality. And again, that's down to the way that they've used the new screens here to put an awful lot of stuff away from the buttons on the unit. So the third big point I want to make is that this was AlphaTheta's to mess up, because people are rabid for this. People have been screaming for an XDJ-XZ2 for a long time. Well, it's now here. And so all they had to do was not make any real big mess ups. Well, they haven't. I've been saying it all the way through this review. If you've got the money and you want the most complete all-in-one unit from this company that they've ever made, just go get it. So let's conclude. Look, I'm not setting this up as a AlphaTheta Pioneer DJ versus other brands. This isn't what this is about. This is about, is the XDJ-AZ a worthy replacement for the XZ? Yes, it is. Is it worth the money? Well, if you're going to spend money on two of these and one of these, well, it most definitely is, because it's going to cost you a fraction of that. And for most people, for absolutely no disadvantage. Is there anything that could be changed on it to make it better? Worth mentioning? Really, I don't think there is. It's just doing exactly what it is meant to do and corrects all the things that its predecessor didn't do. And for that, I'm going to give it top marks. If you are a serious DJ and you want something that you can use for the next 5 years plus, and you know it's going to be there to do all the stuff that you see us doing in our courses and that you see DJs doing on those clips that you watch on socials and on YouTube and so on. And if you know that one day you want to play in clubs and you want something that feels just like this stuff here, it's got all those bases covered. Plus, it's got SonicLink. So you can even use your headphones if you've got another 400, 500, whatever they cost, to drop on some SonicLink headphones without a wire. That is a headline feature, but everything else about it is really, really good as well. It gets a 5 out of 5 from us. We've thoroughly enjoyed reviewing it, and we're going to be producing that training tutorial and video manual very soon. Again, that link is down there if you want to sign up and be told as soon as that goes live. It will be at least 2 hours long, because they always are, and it will talk you in detail through absolutely everything about the unit. We have a Rekordbox Made Easy course, which will help you to get to grips with the software. And of course, if you're new to this, then as well as buying your unit and your speakers and your headphones, go and get a copy of Complete DJ Course, the best-selling course on how to DJ from us here at Digital DJ Tips, and the only course anywhere in the world based upon our Amazon best-selling book on how to DJ Rock the Dance Floor. I teach that course, so if you've enjoyed this and you want more of the same, come and get it. But meanwhile, this has been Phil in the studio. I'll see you again very soon. Meanwhile, get good, get out there and make the moments. Bye for now.